Arab citizens inside Israel protest against widespread discrimination, even as Israel insists it's a democracy. But just how do Israeli Arabs fare in a country that insists it's Jewish first? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Sami Zaidan. Well, the mayors of Arab communities across Israel are threatening to resign en masse, claiming anti-Arab discrimination. Well, they're protesting over a lack of funding for their municipalities and councils, saying their communities don't get the same deal as Jewish areas. Well, this is in sharp contrast to the social status of Israeli Arabs. Of the 36 areas with the highest unemployment level in Israel, all are Arab, even though Israeli Arabs make up some 20% of the population. So whilst the mayors are staying put for the time being, they warn that time is running out. Well, the Palestinians who stayed in their land after the creation of the State of Israel in 1948 are more than 1 million. They make up around 20% of the population. Almost half of them live in the northern district, or the so-called Heart of Galilee. Around 18% live in the Jerusalem district, and few live in the Tel Aviv area. Bedouin Arabs, meanwhile, make up the majority of the northeastern section of the Negev desert. Well, joining our discussion today, our guests in Nazareth, Hannah Suede, member of Knesset and former mayor of the Municipal Council of Alabun. Also in Tel Aviv, Dan Shiftan, he's the Deputy Director of the National Security Studies Center at the University of Haifa and a Senior Fellow at the Shalom Center in Jerusalem. Thank you very much both for joining us. If I could start with Mr. Hannah Suede. Although you make up 20% of the population, Israeli Arabs seem relatively marginalized in every category. Why?
Well, really since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the Arab citizens were considered and were dealt with as second-order citizens. Most of the Arab lands were confiscated by the government by different laws. Some of them go back to the Ottoman Empire era, some of them to the Mandate era, and some of them were enacted in Israel. The education system, the health system, the welfare system were very backwarded and still backwarded compared with their Jewish counterparts.
All right, but many Israelis would argue, sorry to interrupt you, some Israelis would argue that the reason for that is the Palestinians were not, at the beginning, didn't want to be part of this new state that was created, and that's what set them off on the wrong foot.
Well, the Arab citizens in Israel are citizens of the State of Israel. They want to be citizens of the state, and they want to be considered and dealt with as equal citizens of the state. To speak about Israel as a democracy while lacking the equality of its Arab citizens is not fair. It's a lack in the democracy in Israel. Arabs want to be, as I said, equal citizens with the full meaning of citizenship, which means having full and equal rights from the state.
All right, let's go over to Dr. Dan and get his perspective on this. Some of the figures that Palestinian officials would point out show that Arab municipalities simply get less money for their communities. Isn't that discrimination?
Well, let me start from the broad perspective, because without it you cannot understand the more specific issues. First of all, the Arabs in Israel have declared war against the Jewish majority by saying that the very existence of the Jewish state is inherently illegitimate. What they're saying is that we are a product of a colonial enterprise and we still are colonialists, and therefore we're inherently illegitimate. Most of the confrontation between Jews and Arabs in Israel are on this basis rather than on the economic issue.
I'm not sure it's so accurate to say that Israeli Arabs have declared war on the State of Israel. They carry Israeli passports, don't they?
Yes, they do carry Israeli passport, but practically all elites and practically everybody that is significant among Arabs in Israel have recently declared in a number of documents that the very existence of the Jewish state is illegitimate, and that everything that the Jews have done here is a colonial enterprise. So this is true about Arabs inside Israel, not only about Palestinians outside Israel. As a matter of fact, at the moment, Arabs in Israel, Israeli Arabs, have come to Abu Mazen, the leader of the Palestinians, to tell him that he is not tough enough against Israel and he's not belligerent enough against Israel, and they are urging him to be more radical against Israel. So yes, what I've said before is accurate, but let me come now to the economic element, because you spoke about discrimination. If you look at the situation of Christian Arabs against the situation of Muslim Arabs in Israel, you will find an enormous difference between Christians and Arabs, because the real reason that Arabs are in bad economic shape is that they have many children and only one of the spouses work. Inside Israel, we have two communities that are poor: ultra-Orthodox Jews and Muslim Arabs, because both of these communities have many children and only one of the spouses work. When you come to Muslim Arabs,
but
only
how does, sorry to interrupt you, how does that account for the fact that the government is giving Arab municipalities less money, no matter how many children they have?
The government is not, the government is matching everything that the municipality collects from its own citizens. What happens in Arab municipalities is that the municipality does not collect taxes from the citizens, and therefore what the government gives as matching funds is much smaller, because you match one Israeli shekel against one Israeli shekel that is collected. What they're saying is, we will not collect from our citizens, even well-to-do citizens, not only poor citizens, but also well-to-do citizens. And then they throw everything on the shoulders of the government and cry discrimination. What I'm saying is not that there is no discrimination in Israel. In every democracy, you don't have 100% equality. But for instance, the difference between Christian Arabs and Muslim Arabs is greater than the difference between Jews and Arabs inside Israel. The difference between different categories of Jews.
All right, you've made some important points there. Let's take some of them and we'll come back to you for the others that you want to make. Let's go over to Hannah and see how you respond to that. A couple of points there. One, that basically Arab municipalities are bad at tax collection. There's some truth to that. And the other one, Arab Israelis see Israel as a colonial enterprise. Perhaps the point that Dr. Dan is making is somehow they deserve different treatment.
Well, unfortunately, my colleague is raising the traditional allegations against the Arab citizens of the State of Israel. First of all, the Arab citizens of the State of Israel did not ever wage or declare war against the state. They recognize the state, they respect their citizenship, but they want, as I said in the very beginning, that they need and they require and they deserve equal citizenship. They never declared a war on the state. They are loyal to the State of Israel, the majority, the huge majority of them. Now, by the way, I'm a Christian. I know that there are no differences in average between the Christian Arab community and the Muslim Arab community in Israel. So just to play on these differences between Christians and Muslims is not a fair game here at all. The situation of the Christian Arab villages in Israel are exactly the same as the situation of the Muslim Arab villages. Now, regarding collection of taxes in Israel and in the Arab municipalities, if you know that the rate of poverty among the Arab population is more than 50%, more than 50%. What do you think about collecting taxes from poor community? By law, the Arab community or many citizens, a great portion of the Arab population in the Arab municipalities are exempt by law from paying taxes to the municipalities because of their socio-economic situation.
I guess, sorry to interrupt you, I guess some Israelis would argue, sorry to interrupt you, but some Israelis would argue that although Arab towns and municipalities are bad at tax collection as a whole, some of the most poorest communities amongst the Arab towns and municipalities are actually the best at collecting taxes. Does it really have to do with poverty?
Taxes is a function of poverty, of course. That's the law in Israel. And if you are in a poor situation, if a family is in a poor situation, or it is defined as poor family, then it is exempt from paying taxes. And this is the situation in most of the Arab municipalities. Most of the Arab municipalities rank in the 2 out of 10 socio-economic index in Israel. 2 out of 10, which means that their situation, their socio-economic situation is very bad. So they cannot pay taxes. Most of them, they are by law exempt. So I don't understand exactly what does Mr. Shiftan is speaking about collecting taxes. But at the same time, those who can pay taxes, they do pay taxes. The major problem indeed is that the lack of industrialization in the Arab municipalities. The government did not build any industrial zone in any Arab locality since the establishment of the State of Israel, which means that unemployment is very high among the Arab citizens, and that actually contributes to the high rates of poverty among the Arab population, which means discrimination. That's a discriminatory policy.
Well, employment isn't the only issue. Israeli Arabs have been on the receiving end of unfavorable treatment by Israeli authorities. In October 2000, 13 Arab Israelis were shot dead by police during demonstrations while they were protesting against Israeli brutality at the onset of the Second Palestinian Intifada. In response to the events, an Israeli panel was appointed to investigate the event. The Or Commission criticized the Israeli police for being unprepared for the riots and possibly using excessive force to disperse the mobs. The Commission also found serious discrimination directed towards Israeli Arabs. Yet 7 years on, no indictment was brought against any of those who shot the 13 dead, nor against any senior officials. Well, if you're an Israeli, clearly your identity as Jew or Arab is important. But what about the state's identity? Is that where the problem starts? We'll pose that question after the break. Stay with us.